throwing it out big time.
You never know. What boxing thing did you catch?
I saw you hitting some mitts and stuff.
Maybe that was when I was at Jackson's in New Mexico.
See, I'll pull it up.
It was, yeah. Oh yeah, I sent him a link to it.
Oh, actually, this one's from Instagram.
Oh yeah, that's in LA.
Dude, that's smooth. That's a lot of work. That's decades.
That's a lot of punching. And so that's Cleveland.
That's not you learning in a couple weeks, man. That's a lot of work.
I'm glad you appreciate it. Yeah, so that's Cleveland. His brother's Andre Berto, who was a WBC, WBA world champion, fought Floyd Mayweather in his last fight. Well, Floyd's last fight before Conor.
Yeah.
The 49-0 fight.
So we're good to go.
Cool. Yeah, how long you been involved in like MMA and stuff like that?
So I started in martial arts when I was 5.
Shit.
Yeah.
Was it like a karate thing back when you were a kid where you're like, Mom and Dad, I'm gonna do karate? Hiya!
Basically,
yeah.
Running around and like breaking everything in the house. It was really my grandma who took me down to take karate lessons because...
Oh, I thought you were going to say she took you down, like she took you out.
She could have. My grandma was badass. It's, funny because, most...
Was she taller than you? Here we go. We got to start them out early.
Hey. So, what was funny was in our house, if there was like back in the day, what was that show with Bruce Willis, like Moonlighting?
Yeah, I think it was called. So
I just remember my parents watched it. If him and I guess Sybil Shepherd was the other.
Sounds good enough.
Okay, yeah. So enough. If they would be making out on TV, my grandma would lose her shit. Can we curse on this, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. She would lose her shit.
She'd like jump in front of the TV.
Like, how could you let the kids watch that? That's disgusting. I can't believe it. But if a Clint Eastwood movie came on or an action movie, the more death and murder, she was all about it. My dad would be like, what are you doing?
Oh, Clint Eastwood never killed anybody that didn't deserve it. Let's just face it, right?
True. So for her, she just knew I was just a wild maniac. And so she took me down to martial arts, and
that's cool. And she just knew that was something that you were excited about. Did you see any like movies or anything? Was there, like Bruce Lee or something? Or
yeah, Kung Fu Theater.
Nice.
I was that guy on Sundays. Me and my brother would watch it, and then I always, had a big bully brother. Look kind of like you, just bigger and
picking on you all the time.
Oh yeah.
You have brothers and sisters, or just a brother?
I have an older brother, an older sister, and a younger sister.
Oh, cool.
But many of my issues probably stem from him, like beating on me when I was a kid. You know, like holding me down and tickling me, and now I have like this obsessive behavior with people touching my neck and tickling my armpits because of when I was a kid.
Don't tickle his armpits.
She knows. Not on the neck or the armpits.
Yeah, it's interesting, how you get those things from your childhood that I'm kind of the same way. Like when it came to like any sort of like wrestling and stuff, my brothers used to kill me all the time. And we would practice like WWE moves on each other all the time. Yeah. Did you get in any of that? Did you watch wrestling as a kid?
Oh man, when I was a youngster, I used to love it.
Grandma must not have liked that either.
No, the wrestling she liked because it was violent. That she liked. But we would watch all of that, and then beg our parents year round, just like, please take us to WrestleMania when that first came out. Oh, you were mentioning
that you begged your like parents to bring you to Gold's Gym, right? Because you heard that the Hulkster was going to be there, right?
Yeah, and you knew like Lou Ferrigno would be dangling around there, or you just thought he would. So in like my early teens, when I got into
Lou Ferrigno, how great is that? The Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, when I got into doing, what I thought was attempting to become a future world champ level bodybuilder. Right. At
you showed me the photos. There's no question.
There's no question. I mean, December
no question
91,
where you were heading if MMA didn't get in your way, and kickboxing and everything else.
I went down there. That was so cool, man. And then. What's crazy is that as you get older, you like take for granted what you have available to you, or you become desensitized to it. And it's like when I was young, it was just the most amazing thing in the world. And then you get older, you're like, Gold's Venice. It's 20 minutes away. We can go there whenever we want.
You probably remember a lot about that, though. I mean, like when things like that happened to you as a kid, you remember it like it was yesterday. Like you remember like the weather, you remember the smell, you remember like everything is associated to like that particular day when you see or meet, someone who's famous, or even just get a glimpse of somebody that you kind of idolize, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. A story. So one thing is I have realized that some of those memories from when I was a kid, because they were such a big deal to me, that I feel as if in my head I created the story that I thought it was. And then, I'm sure you've experienced this, where sometimes you go back on a childhood experience or a place, or an event, a venue, and you're like, oh man, I remember this place being 10 times the size, or it just in my head, you formulated that something that was just like more fantastical, if I could create that word.
Yeah.
And that's how some of those things, in my head play out.
Yeah, they're better off that way.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet anybody and were disappointed, or you were just too young and too fired up to really notice any flaws with some of these guys? Maybe as you got older?
As I got older, when I started to meet some of my, maybe martial arts heroes,
right,
you can tend to get disappointed, because
right. You realize there's some vodka in their Gatorade bottle or some shit. You're like, who the fuck's this guy?
Like, the fuck? Yeah, you're not even, you don't just have skeletons in the closet. Like, you're fucking carrying them around with you. Like, guy, leave that at home.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Miyagi, I need you to settle down. Yeah, he's out at the strip club all night. That actually happened to me. I went to one of those martial arts super shows in Vegas. And, you're out in the casinos and you're driving around, or you go, you're walking down the strip and you see like a strip club, and you look over and some of your lifelong martial arts heroes are all just like funneling in there.
Oh shit.
It's like, no.
You're like, what's happening here?
Yeah, you're supposed to be in bed by 8 and, you don't even sleep laying down.
Yeah. And so how long have you been involved in fitness? Like, when did you start lifting and stuff?
So,
let's probably put this right there.
Is that better?
Yep.
Sorry, it's my extremely short legs.
There we go.
I was one of those kids who had a bench in his house.
That's the best.
Yeah, with that
That's
super skinny bar and the screw-on collars, those heavy steel screw-on collars, and the sand-filled cement.
Bench width was really tiny, and then the handles for where the and you could potentially miss that and tear your rotator cuff,
just be done,
blow out a bicep.
Yeah, drop the bar into your mouth.
Oh my god, that was the most dangerous setup known to man,
just ever. And so we had one of those with those gray cement-filled plates.
Oh yeah,
yep, that slid on there, and
grabbed them from Sears or some shit, right?
Something, and it came with what was it, like ergonomic curling bar?
Yeah.
The preacher curling bar, and it came with that set. And so I would do that.
Who's the guy that made that thing up? You know what I mean?
He's probably living on an island, retired with zillions of dollars.
We need a bar that's periodically bent so that we can curl it better, so it feels better when we curl it. What a stupid fucking thing that is. Only somebody like Smokey would make that, right, Andrew?
Oh God! Right.
It's a weird concept.
Did you ever use that thing that went over your head?
That's exactly what I was going to bring up
with
next.
the steel plate across your chest, and
fucking
you
arm
stare
blaster
yourself in the mirror, and you're like, yeah,
the arm blaster.
Easy curl bar and arm blaster combo.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh man,
yeah, the arm blaster deal, because it kept your arms in alignment, rather than your elbows coming really far forward, to kind of curl up your arms
and pump.
You get the maximum tension on the bicep. Yeah. Which some of that stuff is just is so silly, but some of it has made kind of a comeback. A muscle isolation type work. It's really effective. I think a lot of times the stuff from bodybuilding, bodybuilders have been kind of pushed to the wayside a little bit because there's so many drugs in the sport. I think as people got older, they kind of recognized that, and they were like, well, I don't really know if there's really much to learn from these guys. However, bodybuilding is one of the safer sports. The pro guys, again, they're taking a lot of shit, so they're messing with their health quite a bit. But a lot of people that I know that do Olympic lifting, powerlifting, CrossFit, or bodybuilding, the bodybuilders are usually the most healthy. The bodybuilders have less wrist issues, less shoulder problems, less lower back, because the movements are isolated and they're done in such a way that it kind of it promotes you using less weight to get more of an effect from it.
Right, I was going to say, they're probably scaling the weight down, but doing more variation in repetitions.
And in weightlifting and powerlifting, what are we constantly doing? We're always lifting too much weight. We're always outside of what we should be doing.
Right.
And we know it. And you being a coach and somebody that owns multiple gyms now, when somebody comes to you and is like, hey, I want to, do A, B, C, but this keeps happening to me, you can very easily spin that advice over to them. And you can very easily say, hey, I think you're going too heavy. But how hard is it to follow that yourself?
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, we've all crossed over to the dark side 1,000 times. Even when we swear we won't do it again after an injury.
Yeah.
It's like we get stupid 6 weeks later.
So you were a professional kickboxer at one point?
Yeah. So I basically was like pro-am. So I could fight, in certain countries and accept money and fight pro, and then be able to still like maintain amateur status fighting in the US. And but spent quite a bit of time in the amateurs and fought in some really great organizations, some of which, are like based not too far from here.
What do you love in terms of martial arts? So what's your favorite? I'm sure you have many different practices and things like that. What's your favorite thing to do?
Currently, Jiu Jitsu. But when if I can get on a set of gloves and hit the bag, to me that's my yoga. Like that's my Zen zone. Cool. I can dim the lights out, play
maybe a little less figuring out for you because you've been doing it for so long.
Yeah, that's right.
And the jiu-jitsu, you're still
figuring it out. I still feel like I haven't even earned the right to wear a white belt.
Jiu-jitsu seems impossible.
It's one of those things where they say that you hear a lot especially from advanced guys. The better you get at it, the harder it gets.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the better you get, the harder it gets.
That actually makes some sense because that happens a lot in lifting. You get like analysis paralysis. Whereas when you were young and hungry, you just kind of did stuff and it sort of came naturally to you. And people were like, "Holy shit, you're really good at this," and you're like, "Oh, like I am." But in jiu-jitsu, I can imagine that can be because you are continuing to increase the difficulty, I'd imagine. Like I've learned tiny bits of jiu-jitsu over the years. I got to roll with Kyle Kingsbury more recently, and he's like walking me through all this stuff. And I'm like, what is this going to turn into? The fuck am I doing? Right. And next thing you know, I have him in like a legitimate hold where I could actually hurt him. And I'm too dumb. I'm too inexperienced to even know that I have him in anything. And I'm like, holy shit. But I imagine as you keep going down that path, it probably gets harder and harder.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What'd you get him in, by the way? Do you remember?
I have no idea. Andrew, what did I get him in? You remember?
I
think it's just pretty basic, like arm bar or something. But I didn't know what we were doing. It was actually funny because I just basically jumped into a class that they had.
Oh, right on.
Going on at the Auden Academy. So I jumped into the 10th planet, whatever the hell they call it, jiu-jitsu class. Yeah. And yeah, it was amazing. I mean, Kyle had a match like the next day. So I was like, I don't think this is smart, Kyle. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm totally going to hurt you because I'm going to be a buffoon and not, know exactly what's going on. But the first exposure I had to jiu-jitsu was watching the first UFC, watching the first few episodes, watching the first few UFCs in general, the pay-per-views. And I was completely amazed by it. I was like, I'm like, wait, what's happening?
Yeah, what's going on here?
This smaller guy can just grab onto this other guy and like absorb his weight and then just put him in a hold and then it's over? Like, how painful could it be? What is he doing to that guy?
Like the early days of Hoist when he'd come in the gi.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't understand. He choked him out. How? And what was he doing? He like, it was, because a lot of times it wasn't just a traditional choke. It wasn't just like a guillotine, or it wasn't just like a rear naked choke. It wasn't just some of those things. It was like choking out people with their legs and their feet and their forearms and all these different things. There's Kyle going at it right here. Like he's trying to have me work on these mobility drills and I can't move to save my life. I'm like trying to figure it out. I'm like, nope. That ain't working.
Yeah, and his movement's probably just spectacular, right?
Yeah, Kyle is he's somebody that's working on all these different movements all the time. And have you found that jiu-jitsu really helps you with your mobility a lot? I've heard that quite a bit.
Oh yeah, and the more flexible you are, the better dexterity that you have. Mm-hmm. The more you're going to excel at a faster rate than somebody with less mobility.
Oh, there we go. I'm getting him in some sort of ankle lock or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Now he's jacking me up. The hard thing about a lot of these things is, in lifting and in some aspects of like CrossFit and stuff, you're going to really like bear down on some stuff, and you're going to really tighten up a lot. Like if you do an Olympic lift, or if you do a deadlift or something like that, you got to get a lot of tension. You got to get a lot of air in your stomach and kind of just hold that position the whole time. But when it comes to striking or when it comes to jiu-jitsu, these things are kind of done more in spurts. And if you don't relax, you really wear yourself out, right?
Yeah, there's almost like a midpoint where you have to be like relaxed in a subtle tense state while maintaining your breathing patterns. Because really it's the breath that'll take it out of you. If you're not maintaining your breath, oh, look at that. That's an old school video. You're digging deep on the YouTubes. What I really want you to notice about this video, though, more than anything, is the white, super short booty shorts way before their time.
Dude.
This is way before CrossFit. I want you to make note of that.
Wow, man. Yeah, those things are digging in there so hard you got to pick them out of your crotch a bunch of times.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the strategy.
This other guy ain't going to win. This guy's going to get slaughtered. Look at the shorts you're wearing.
Yeah, how do you beat those?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're wearing some white booty shorts that would make any CrossFit girl very, very jealous right now.
That's right.
They're a little bit long in terms of getting the cheek to hang out. Look at the ref. He doesn't give a fuck about what's going on right now. He's like, this is the fucking 8th match of the day. He's like, these guys are awful.
These guys suck. This fucking kid is wearing white short shorts.
Yeah, he's like, this is disgusting. Why couldn't I be coaching women's beach volleyball or something instead of these kids?
Oh man, that's 2009. That was 9 years ago. Yeah. So this is shortly after I started jiu-jitsu, right as I was kind of like tapering out of my competitive fight career.
So the Gracie name was already huge in America by then. Did that affect you going into this match?
No, I was actually really fortunate, man, because I was trading privates. I was teaching stand-up fighting to one of Renzo's original American black belts that had a school out in Weston. He's still there. Stan Beck was my first jiu-jitsu coach, and he's still there running a great operation. And he was my coach, and I was training with those guys. And prior to that, man, we were getting all of our training off of YouTube, because that was the only place we could really find it.
Yeah.
We were so busy training in stand-up and just beating the shit out of each other that, we'd search YouTube, find some videos, and then practice. I think there's actually one up there where I had no right to do it, but you don't know any better and you don't care, where I did like an instructional video, basically from like that position where I switch from, turtle taking the guy's back, and then choke him out. And I do a routine of movements from there. And I look back on it now and I actually look at it and go, wow, that's actually not that bad. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but that kind of makes sense. Because if you have an understanding of like joint manipulation and body awareness, you can kind of figure some stuff out.
The way that these moves are like cinched it's crazy. The intensity, how quickly it goes from, it kind of seems like someone has something and then they have it and then you're like fucking toast.
There's nothing you can do.
A half second later.
It's like when I ask my coach now, I say, goes by Mestre, he's a Brazilian guy, Cobrinha, I'll ask him, say, hey, Mestre, what do you do in this position? And you're just waiting for like the most magical, life-altering response. Like, this is exactly the steps you do. He just looks at you and he'll be like, you just shouldn't get into that position. Because once you're there, it's just good night, brother.
You're screwed. So you should be thinking ahead. Is that something you have to do a lot in jiu-jitsu?
Oh, yeah. It's like, if you're one step ahead, you could potentially be 4 steps behind.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, you're trying to put together the sentence at the beginning of the story.
Yeah,
and you've tried.
That's hard. That's got to be. I mean, because it's physical too. That's got to be insanely difficult. I think we tend to not respect how much performance matters. There's a lot of people, and I talk about diet quite a bit and got the book out and things like that. And there are a lot of people that suffer from obesity and type 2 diabetes, and we lose too many people from heart disease and things that are preventable, or things that we can at least starve off for another decade or so. But the performances that we have in the gym are really crucial. We have to be able to perform at a high rate. And if your diet, if you're somebody that listens to this show quite a bit, if your diet is compromising your performance, then you're making a mistake, because you got to be able to perform at a high level. And I don't mean you need to be a professional at anything. I just mean you need to be able to have good workouts.
That's right.
How do you fuel your workouts? Like, doing kickboxing and jiu-jitsu and running businesses and stuff. I mean, what have you found works well for you food wise?
I follow, and not for the trend purposes, but I follow generally a gluten-free style diet.
Right.
And I do that because it just makes it easier to select the foods. It takes some of the mindfulness out of it. So I can go, okay, if it's gluten-free, I'm already kind of like halfway there.
Right.
It's probably lower. It's in sugars. It's lower in carbohydrates for the most part.
Yeah.
Unless you're eating gluten-free donuts, like we were talking about last night, unless you're just gobbling a dozen of those down.
I think it's safe to bet, that most of the time when people talk about gluten-free, they're suggesting that their choice of carbohydrates is probably coming from things like rice, different types of potatoes.
Right. You would hope that's what they're doing.
Yeah, for the most part. And not just replacing everything with a gluten-free sandwich or donut. And
right.
Although those things might happen, they might come into play because it is nice to have some freedom and have a snack here and there, but it's not the majority of.
That's right. Yeah, and when it came to my nutrition, I'm generally a creature of habit. So what I would try to do is find places where I knew I could trust the ingredients in the food I was eating, and I would just habitually visit those places on the regular. And, being in LA, you're sourced heavily with good quality places to eat if you can find them. And it was just easy for the last, 10 years of my life to basically just be going to Whole Foods every day, or now with Air One popping up and be going in there and just hitting the salad bar, putting some clean proteins on it, eating a simple salad and being good with it.
That place is crazy. It's got like, weird cultured coconut yogurt.
Oh, yeah.
It's like $50 or something.
Right,
You're like, what the hell is that? Like, you want to just buy it just to see what will happen to you. Like,
that's right.
Are you all of a sudden just going to get super jacked off of slugging some of that down?
That's like the running joke. You're like, oh man, if this bee pollen is, $633 and this bee pollen is $23, you got to buy the $633 one.
It's got to be way better.
Yeah, because those are from those are from higher class bees.
It's got to make you better. Where do you live in LA?
In West Hollywood.
And then where are you training at?
So Brick is based in West. My headquarters location's right there in West Hollywood. It's only a half mile away from where I live, so it's super easy. You don't have to commute. And then I do my jiu-jitsu at Cobrinia's, which is on Highland and Wilshire. Yeah, and that's our super snazzy website right there.
Tell me a little bit about Brick. Brick is a chain of gyms that you developed. What's sort of the mission of Brick?
So if I tried to give you my Gandhi life-changing, statement, it's really to try to impact the most amount of people possible with a safe, fun, and friendly environment that emphasizes good quality movement. Which would then lead back into being safe, which if it's safe, it can be fun. If you're having fun and it's safe, then you're more inclined to be in a more friendly environment.
Right. Are you trying to cater to a wide variety of people, or are you trying to be a little tunnel vision and cater to maybe like pro athletes or soccer moms, or are you trying to channel it towards a certain type of person?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a really cheesy saying, or as our mutual friend Jason likes to call them, JP-isms. Which one of my mentors used to always say, if you market specifically towards the niches, you end up in the ditches. But if you can market and attract the masses, you end up in the upper classes. And so the idea of my business really is to make sure that the barrier of entry, there you go, you can have that one, is to try to lower
Write that down.
Let's chalk that one, please.
Yeah.
Is to be able to attract and to open the doors to as many people as possible. Like truly understand the idea of being all inclusive. Like I don't care what your gender association is these days, what your sexual preference is.
Those bathrooms are confusing.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do in those bathrooms.
I don't know which way to go.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Religion, how much money you have, none of that matters, right? We just want to have a great place people can come in. It's welcoming to all. And the most important thing that you need to bring to us is just having like a really good attitude. Like come and just be a good person.
Just don't be a prick.
Yeah, just
Brick.
Like I'll take that. You can have mine.
There you go.
Yeah,
we'll share.
I'm getting so much done here.
It's so good.
Yeah, and so really, that is ultimately what I tried to create in the headquarters, so that I could scale that out as I opened up.
And then, how did this come to be?
So,
I mean, it's
Brick in general.
Yeah, just owning a gym. Like, I think a lot of people think it's like an attractive thing to own a gym, and it can be in some ways, but it can also be very dangerous in a lot of ways. It can be very time consuming. It can be something that drains a lot of money from you. Was this something that you wanted to do for a long time?
So the short, simple story is, I had a chain of martial arts schools in South Florida called Team Martial Arts Centers. And as most...
Was that a cover for your cocaine distribution that you had going on in Florida?
I was going to say. So as, you know, I hit a rough patch in 2007-8 when the market was crashing over there. And like most young guys who were making too much money without any real guidance, I had spent it on all the wrong things, and I was like over leveraged, as most people in South Florida were at the time. So when the market crashed, although my business was doing well, personally, I had just drained it in my lifestyle.
Yeah.
So what I did was I sold them all to the individual, like my head instructors that I had, for whatever I could to get whatever value I was able to, and moved back to LA. Because one thing my dad said to me, I had a buddy who basically blew his head off, right? He just went through everything and figured that since he had no money left, he had no identity, which was a sad thing because he was a really good dude. And he was the third guy I had known in several months that had committed suicide. I was like, fuck, there's a real problem out here.
Yeah.
So short story long, my dad said, hey man, listen, pack all your shit, come back home, start over again. Doesn't matter how much debt you think you're in, or if you forgot to file bankruptcy, get out, because there is no debtor's prison. I'll never forget him saying that to me. He's like, you don't go to jail for that. Right. So get out, or especially before you end up doing something
to jail for being a bum.
Right. So pack up, come home. And so anyways, what happened was I ended up going home, and I'd already started getting into CrossFit, and I joined into a CrossFit gym in LA, which was run by a guy who also did martial arts. There was an instant connection. And after being there for a few months, I just noticed there was a hole in the market, because I'd now visited. I was drinking heavy Kool-Aid, going to every CrossFit gym I could, wearing all the t-shirts and wearing the knee sleeves.
That happens a lot. You know, people get excited. I mean, CrossFit can be really exciting. There's a lot of different movements. There's a lot of different things to try to master, and to, you know, it's very challenging. And then the conditioning, I think, is I think that level of conditioning can, I don't even know what the right word is, but it does something to your mind where you do kind of get addicted to some of that.
Right. And because you get what you think is good fast, which is really all you did was get better than how bad you were when you started.
Right.
You become addicted to that. And man, I saw a hole in the market, and I had what I thought was enough business savvy behind me where I could do it in a more modern way, keeping the protocols that I had from my martial arts schools and bring something a little cleaner, a little sparklier, a little shinier to the market, and not just try to bring that dungeony kind of warehouse feel.
Gotcha.
You know, because I kind of attribute it. I was in the ski industry early on, and the snowboard world was all about that grunge at the time. You know, in the early and mid '90s was all like Nirvana, grunge, that kind of stuff. You know, nobody at that time was marketing to more like that middle to upper class style market, who are actually the ones that can afford to go skiing and snowboarding. Right. And, you know, that always
almost
stuck
like
in
the
my head.
mindset of like, you know, hey, we can still get after it in this gym, and we can sweat and we can bleed and we can do all these crazy things in here. But just because we do that doesn't mean that there has to be sweat and blood and chalk all over the place all the time. The place can be clinical. The place can look nice when it's not in use. And when it is in use, it could look like a gym, right?
That's right. And that's what we wanted to bring, because it didn't cost anything extra to have showers. We were going to have them anyway. So why not make them look nice? And why not have somebody come at night and clean the place and keep it shining? If your showers and bathrooms and stuff like that look nice, you would hope that people would be less likely to ruin them. Right. And you can develop that culture, right? You know, because I go into gyms nowadays, we're like, oh, we can't get our community to keep the place clean, or we have a hard time keeping the place shiny. It's like, well, that's a cultural issue, right? You you haven't instilled that in your people, where they take ownness on your space and they love it and they want to keep it polished. You know, like here's inside of LA from
it's not a funny thing,
years and years ago.
That looks awesome. They're very well organized, and you know, all the plates and kettlebells and everything's all got a spot, you know. But you know, I think a biggest thing that happens, you know, with communication is people just think that it happened, and it doesn't. People aren't mind readers. You can't. You might be frustrated that somebody puts their bag or their towel or whatever it is in the same spot every day, but they probably have either learned that from seeing maybe you do it yourself or somebody else in your gym do it, or it's just they're not even thinking about it. And it could be something that's building up in you, and you need to just communicate about it. Right. You need to say, hey, that's not where we have a locker room for that, or we put this stuff over here. Sure. And then it's less of a thing, you know. And I think that's it's a tough thing as an owner or as a CEO of a company sometimes to always try to communicate that because you don't want to be a dick all the time.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I wasn't shy early on. I caught a lot of shit in the industry for it to let people know, listen, I opened up Brick to make money. I wanted to get rich.
You shouldn't be saying that.
I know, right? That's like the fucking dark hole word, taking you to the vortex of death in this industry. But I wanted to open it and get rich. But I also knew that if I was going to get rich, my team under me would succeed and do well, in addition. They would be along with me for the ride. I wouldn't be the only one getting there.
Right.
I wanted to be able to develop real careers that they could make money and maybe get into other investments and do other things in their life and really look 10, 15 years down the line and be like, wow, this was something cool that I became a part of and it was real.
I went to a meeting that they had at Rogue Fitness. Bill Henninger was nice enough to just kind of let me sit in on it. I just happened to be at Rogue and I did a bunch of stuff with them for the day. And he's like, they told me I was done and you could take off. And I was like, oh, kind of what's going on now? And Bill's like, oh, we have like a big, meeting with everybody. And he's like, it's really nothing like private or anything. He's like, you can stick around if you want. I'm like, I'm not missing this. Fucking kidding me?
Right.
Listen to Bill Henninger talk, even if I can only hear him for 5 minutes, I'm going to listen to him talk. He basically just said how a lot of the people that work there at Rogue Fitness, a lot of them will start, at the bottom. They might start, in packaging or receiving, or they might start in customer service, or they may start in even the manufacturing side, even some welding and stuff like that. But they're going to have opportunities to work their way up. And he was giving example after example of these people that moved up in the company. And he's like, I want everybody in this room to understand you can work here the rest of your life. You don't need to search for other jobs. And I was like, holy shit. Like, that is really cool. Because there's kids in there that are probably, just starting out. Maybe they're, making $2,000 a month, or I don't know what they make or what the deal is, but probably a minimum wage-ish gig or maybe a little bit more. And the fact that they can stay there and the fact that they have room to continue to grow is a big deal.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's
now
big.
Look at that company. I mean, they're going,
giant,
this
monster.
is like 6 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, and that's kudos to a guy like Bill. To create a company like that can create so many careers and opportunities for other people.
Right.
Like, that's beautiful. And that's when I opened Brick.
And if he doesn't have money, he can't do any of that.
That's right.
You have to you got to figure out a way to make money.
That's right.
Have
so
sales.
I wanted my team and I wanted everybody around me to know, and I didn't care. I wanted the industry to know, like, this is listen, Brick's going to provide a great quality product, all inclusive, et cetera. But we're also going to set a standard that you can make real money with this business, which means you can continuously reinvest into your business. And you as an owner can actually live a real life and become rich in other areas of your life, right? In relationships, in health. And, now when I do my consulting for some of these locations, one of the first things I begin to work on with some of these owners is getting them out of that poor mindset where you start talking to them about money and they start to shy away or become uneasy. Or, as in much of this fitness industry, people they don't even become envious. They become jealous. And so they start hating on it.
Right.
It's like, hey man, you're hating on me because I'm doing well at something and making money. Like it's fucking America.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, Kim Jong-un is not, not taking all my profits, man.
Right.
That's why I'm doing this. And if people didn't like it, they wouldn't be paying for it.
Well, and you run into a lot of people, especially in these communities where they have the mom and pop gym. They have 60 members, but 30 of them are on some sort of special deal.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Membership fee is supposed to be $150, but this guy over here pays $120. This guy over here pays $100, and these other 25 people pay $50, and they're just factoring everybody in as if they pay full price. And it's like, that's not true. That's not really what's happening. You only have, half your members only pay full price or whatever it might be. And I'm sure you have to walk those people. Hey, we got to change a lot of this.
I mean, the steps are crazy. And then you find out that they're, barely breaking even in the facility. They're working a second job, or, they've been at it for 3 or 4 years and they're barely pulling out $500 to $1,000 a month for themselves. Right. You're like, how have you been doing this? You can't love this anymore. It's impossible for you to still be passionate about this business going broke year after year.
The energy's got to start to fade at some point, right?
Yeah. I mean, we talk about that. Like, once your income and the value of what you're doing shrinks below like the amount of energy it takes to maintain that passion, it will shrink too.
How long do people care about their job for?
Yeah.
6 months?
Yeah.
Right. A year, maybe, right? Like it's hard to get people to care about their job for a long period of time. And it's because of what you just said.
Yeah.
They put a lot of time into it. They're like, I don't really know what I'm going to get from all this. And then the same thing with the clients. So you got to provide a lot of value for them. Do you guys have personal training, or do you guys have group training, or kind of combination?
We do a combination. Yeah, we do a combination. It's exactly as you say, though, so I know that at this point in my career and where I'm at, I'm not as passionate about like individual coaching, one-on-one for fitness. I'm really passionate. I get excited about coaching my coaching staff on how to be better coaches and how to be better individual businesses on their own and how they can develop their careers, and then helping my other licenses. That's what that fucking juices me up. But I know that I'm good at hiring people who have that passion and bringing them on the team. And so I kind of, I can pat myself on the back to still be open-eyed and knowing how to do that. Right. And, that is still a main focus for us at Brick. Even with our personal training, we tell them, if you're going to be in personal training, you got to be as passionate with that client as you are on day one, as if you hope to have them 3 or 4 years from now. And a lot of times the reason why you look at certain trainers, why they run through their personal training book every 6 months, is because they lose the passion of getting involved with that individual.
They have the person warm up for 15 minutes while they're on their phone. Right. And then they have the person, go through a workout that they're not that excited to take them through. They get through the workout and then they're on their phone for another 15 minutes while you cool down. Hey, go on the bike over there. It's like, it's like, I just paid for that. What the fuck is that?
Right. It's so competitive now. There's so much information available on the internet that if you're not providing a high level professional product, you're going to get gobbled up and spit out. They're going to call your bullshit fast. And I have trainers, you can see them. Some of them have had to have talks with some of them where you're like, listen, you're out there doing that. You're giving them the same warm up, putting them on a rower, asking them to run around the block. You're phoning the shit in. You look to your right, the new trainers in there, iPad or laptop open with a full lesson plan, not just for the day. They probably have like the month mapped out for this individual, and they have all their vitals in there. They've taken their body compositions. They've done, functional movement testing on them. They've like gone the extra mile.
Yeah. Run with them, do some of the stuff with them, warm up with them, cool down
engage with them. Show them you care. You got to remind them that you give a shit.
Right.
Because they're dealing with people that don't give a shit all day long, and then you want them to pay you a premium. And they get mad when they start looking at something else. People
just think fitness is easy too. You think you just go in and you just like work out, but there's a lot of things to learn. There's a certain way to do each exercise.
That's right.
I was taking people through very basic movements today, push-ups, had you guys doing some squats, some deadlifts. There's a lot of information that you can transfer and trade while somebody's doing a movement. And a good coach is going to coach you. They're going to coach you on every single rep. You go back and watch, maybe Andrew can pull some of this up. Go back and watch Mike Tyson in his heyday when he still had Kevin Rooney with him. That guy coached every combination that guy ever threw.
Oh yeah.
Even when he was already champ, he just sliced through everybody as a teenager. He was beating the crap out of all these heavyweights, and he was just smashing people. But no combination that he ever threw goes like untaught. It's after every movement, and you can almost see Tyson's like frustrated. He's like, fuck, like he almost feels like he can't get anything right. But they're trying to really have perfect movement. They're trying to have the best movement possible, and it's obviously it worked well for them. It provided a lot of value, and he was able to knock the crap out of people.
Right. It's like you become desensitized, so you allow a larger room for error. Like as a personal trainer, you become comfortable with the client, and you're like, okay, if I give him 70% of my attention, effort, and energy and instruction, he'll still assume that it's 100% of the value that he's paying for. You're like, well, you're fucking doing a disservice, right? It's like you're talking about in the fight world. Imagine if Rooney would have done that to Tyson. He wouldn't have been who he was. But if you're so passionate and care so much about it that you bring it down to like that 99.99 percentile of perfection that you want, you will create greats, whether it be in your staff or yourself.
When it comes to Brick, I mean, you mentioned you wanted to kind of be able to branch out to the masses. What's some of the business model behind that? Because, when I think of the masses, I start to think about like 24-hour fitness or California Family Fitness. And I think I heard recently California Family Fitness, their minimum size gym is like 40,000 square feet. Twice the size of the building that we're in right now. Just a fucking massive place.
Right.
So, does your gym have to be big to be able to accommodate some of that?
No, that's a good question. So really our business model runs from what I believe on the smaller end would be about 4,600 square feet if you're going to do a 2-floor model.
And it's probably also dependent upon the city and the area you're in, because it could.
That's right. Like if you're in New York City where I have 2 locations, which are larger spaces, you're going to be on a much higher liability risk factor to get those places open.
My name has a lot of weight in New York, so just make sure you mention me next time you're over there.
That might have been the mistake I did early on.
You didn't mention me, right, Andy?
It's big on the streets of New York. Any particular streets?
Poughkeepsie, that's where I'm from.
Okay.
No one cares. Nobody even knows I'm from there. I've been out here forever.
All right. From the mean streets of Poughkeepsie.
That's right.
Yeah. So, on a 2-floor, so in our economics, we believe that a 2-floor model is the right place that's the sweet spot.
Right.
All right. And there's a lot of reasons for that.
That look a little bit like one of Jason's gyms that he took me into. It had maybe about 1,500 square feet at the bottom, and then he had upstairs.
Yeah. So in that particular location, absolutely. I've talked to him endlessly about that particular location. So yes, that is more, and we agree, he and I both, on what the modern model looks like. That would very much be it.
Gotcha.
Where you've got like a main functional fitness training floor, or if you're a CrossFit affiliate where you do your CrossFit workouts, and then a secondary floor where you can offer, accessory programs.
Could be a little bit more private. People can go up there and kind of hide a little bit if they need to.
Sure thing. So in a 2-floor model, you can operate that. Like in most of mine, we offer what would be our functional fitness program, which is our CrossFit at this point. And then in a second floor, we can do our BX program, which is like our boot camp. So if you're familiar with any of the larger brands out there, like Orange Theory or Barry's Boot Camp, it would be our equivalent competitor.
Right.
But the difference is, and what we try to tell others is, if you're going to offer an accessory program, you can't offer it as like it's third on the totem pole. You've got to offer it, if you're going to charge within the membership for it, it's got to have the same value. It means that you got to put the same emphasis on it. You got to, it's like you can't just put it over there and say, oh, well, this is our boot camp and we only offer it one time a day.
Right.
And it's, if you want to.
That makes things kind of difficult, because you have to offer multiple classes because people have different schedules. Gyms are typically only busy in the morning and kind of late afternoon, evening-ish.
Prime time hours.
And the gym could otherwise be dead. How do you escape some of that? Because you want to utilize every square inch of that facility that you're paying for every single minute of every single day, right?
Right. So a lot of that goes back into what you're talking about the cities you open up in. And that really is where your research gets into. So, we were just looking into some of the numbers and modeling out some of SoulCycle's business that they've been doing. And we looked at one of their locations in Los Gatos.
Yeah.
And we noticed that they have a very thin schedule in compared to what they have in New York or what they may have in a bigger city. And so now you look at a company like them and you can say, well, they've got all the money in the world to do research.
I guess it makes sense. I never even thought about any of this, but you have to think about this. So if you're in a bigger city, if you're in San Francisco and you're in Chicago and you're in New York City, you probably can afford a pretty good lifestyle, and maybe you don't have to be anywhere at any particular time.
That's right.
You can go train wherever the fuck you want.
Right. So like in New York, So like in New York or LA, we have classes that start at 6 o'clock in the morning. Like, let's just take LA, for example. Nobody works out there, by the way. You've got a class at like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Then there's a short break. And at 4 o'clock, we start all over again until 9 o'clock at night. And there are people in there every hour of the day.
It's just rocking all day long.
Rocking. And New York will go early.
It's like Phil's Coffee in Davis. Was it packed when you went in?
There was people in there.
Yeah, it's usually pretty damn packed.
Yeah. And so you can find those groups that are in those markets. But, you take SoulCycle as a good example. They're in Los Gatos. They too realize the obvious. If you're in a town like Los Gatos, you're going to have maybe 2 hours in the morning that are prime. You're going to throw in a light class in the afternoon, and then you're going to do 1 or 2 at night. And I think on Friday, they didn't even have an evening class. They've been open for a while now,
right?
In terms of SoulCycle, several months under their belt, they're in the mix. And with all their marketing dollars, they still can't fill a full schedule. And so, we tell owners, I don't care where you're opening, you have to know that information before you open, because the numbers might not work.
Right.
Right. If you need to operate 9 classes a day and have an average of 8 people per class to break even, but you're in an area that's only going to service 3 class hours a day and fill them with 9 people, you're broke from the beginning.
Yeah.
And now it's a matter of what's your run rate and your pocket look like. And how many people in your family did you borrow money from? And let's just tell them, hey, you're never going to get it back.
And when it comes to an operation like what you're talking about, it's not something that you can really, it is something that has to be planned out. It sounds like, I mean, it doesn't sound like it has a lot of wiggle room in that respect. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, it's another cheesy JPism from my mentor, but they say proper planning promotes peak performance.
Right.
That's your P's. Proper planning promotes peak performance. And that's the bottom line. We tell them with business, you're going to invest 80, 100, 500,000, $1 million and not going to scrutinize every corner of it. And most of them don't. Why? Because they're so passionate about it. They want to put the passion blinders on because they don't want you to talk them out of what they're passion. It's like when you were a kid.
Yeah. Well, and that's what people are promoting now. Don't let anybody talk you out of your dreams, and follow your passion, and
Yeah, I mean,
whatever your heart says. And by the way, my wife, who kind of always is the realist, and she the fun hammer sometimes, she'll just say like, hey, look, a lot of people just need to be more realistic. Like that ain't gonna I'm not trying to burst your bubble, but that shit ain't going to work.
That's right.
Sometimes you have to kind of recognize that and then stop yourself for a second and say, okay, that's definitely possible. I did crunch the numbers. Maybe I need to try something slightly different. Right.
Right. Yeah. You know what I tell,
doesn't mean it's over. It just means you got to probably rethink your shit a little bit better.
Yeah. That's a hot button for me because I'm in that mix. I've been in that world. I've spent tens of thousands on Tony Robbins over the years, and I've been through a lot of these guys, and I've read a lot of a lot of books.
Coming in a little bit. Tony Robbins is like his mentor.
Yeah, so I've ripped through a lot of that shit, and some of these guys have a great message, but it's as you say, man. Some of this stuff is really just a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, like I make the joke. See it, believe it, achieve it. Like I was saying earlier when we were throwing the axes, like fuck you, see it, believe it, achieve it. I've been seeing myself as some really awesome shit for a long time that I've believed, and I've yet to achieve it.
Yeah.
And when's that going to happen?
Well, I'm not going to be able to make you tap out. You know what I mean? Like if you and I were rolling in jiu-jitsu, unless I need to have a skill.
Right.
I can't just like get into some Zen mode and put my palms up and be like, oh, I'm going to fuck up JP. Yeah. It ain't going to happen. You're going to know how to get at everything. Right. Even with my strength, I might even feel kind of weak in comparison to people that you've grappled with because they already have the leverage and the knowledge. That's right. You don't have the knowledge, you're screwed.
So I watch these guys on Instagram and I debunk their shit all the time. Like, fuck you. It's not just about like getting up and grinding. It's not about the grind. I know guys who are some of the hardest workers in the world, and they're making like $27 an hour laying tar on a roof. Yeah. That's hard fucking work. That's grinding. So why aren't they becoming millionaire?
That's the way I look at it all the time. I'm like, I hang out at a fucking coffee shop all day and fucking think up stupid ideas to sell to people. It ain't that bad. It's actually a lot of fun.
That's such a bad deal, right? Yeah. So that's kind of a hot, like a hot topic for me that it gets me fired up.
Well, there's just a lot of words being thrown around.
Yeah, it's easy to become famous for having really cool words or using someone else's words.
Yeah, and you kind of look at it and you're like, oh my God, that person, they did say a lot, but they didn't really say anything.
Yeah.
There was really nothing profound in there. They're just kind of, it's almost like just, spewing out other people's information. And I think what gets to be hard about that is sometimes you don't know somebody. So if you don't know who I am and I share something motivational and you pop on my Instagram and you read it, you might be like, who the fuck does this guy think he is? But if you don't know me and haven't been around me, then maybe it comes off as being pompous or arrogant or whatever. The message could be skewed a little bit sometimes.
That's right. Yeah. It's like, know the message and the messenger before you start scrutinizing the shit out of it.
Right.
But yeah, I tell people when people come to me, because we've done a ton of business seminars and they say, oh, I've got 200 grand and I want to open up a gym. What's like the best words of advice you could give me? And I shit you not, I give the same speech every single time. I said, take half of that, give it back to whoever you borrowed it from. Take the other half to Vegas. Because you have a better chance of making money on that than you will.
That. That's great.
And basically don't open. And they look at me like, fuck you. And I always say this to them and in my head. I said, if you listen to me, then I was right. You should not open up a gym. If you walk away and go, fuck that short, bald guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm going to make this work.
Watch what I'm going to do.
Yeah, watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it happen. And then I go, that's the first step in knowing you might have what it takes to make this work.
Right.
Because you know as well as anybody, this shit ain't easy. We have fun doing it because we have fun doing shit that's not easy.
Yeah.
But for the most part, there's, how many sleepless nights and stressful days have you had where you're like, fuck, I might be broke tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or how many days have you had where you're like, oh, fuck, I'm broke today.
Yeah.
If I don't pull this off tomorrow, I'm more broke.
Insufficient funds. I thought that was my name. I was like, why does the fucking machine keep spitting that out? Are they talking to me? Did they change my name?
Hey, I got an email from the bank again today. How do you know it's for you? It said insufficient funds on it.
Yeah.
So I know it's for me.
It had to be for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've had plenty of days like that. How do you know when something's a good idea for yourself?
Holy shit. I think as I get older, I try to be more methodical about knowing what that is, and maybe that's a bad thing, right? But
it can be, yeah. Sometimes
it can be a bad thing. But I've tried to listen to the idea where you hear some of those that have done greater things than us at this point in their lives, where they say, if you know there's a need out there, or even just a great want, like if there's a hole in a market somewhere and you feel passionate that it's going to provide value, that's a good start. As opposed to just being something that maybe you think is really cool.
Yeah. That's the hard part, because sometimes you get, if you think something, if you're like, man, like jiu-jitsu, like it means the world to me. It changed my life. It changed my perspective. It's changed every piece of me and made me so much better. I'm going to open up these jiu-jitsu gyms, and you're so excited and passionate about it. And then you kind of like 5 years down the road, just recognize, well, fuck, no one really cares that much about jiu-jitsu, or I wasn't able to make them care that much about it, right? And that those things can happen because it's cool for you and it's what you love, and maybe not everybody else wants to hear it or wants to be exposed to it.
That's right. And so now, like in my adult phase, and me and my fiance were great at doing this, where we love to get hyped up about new shit, right?
Yeah.
Which is why it's awesome to have such a great, partner, like a kick-ass teammate that can hype you up.
She's way cooler than you, by the way.
Yeah, she's way cooler than I am.
And way prettier, too.
I mean...
You're all short and stuff?
I am short, but have you seen me in a dress?
No,
Have you seen me out of a dress? Neither.
I have not.
Okay, well then fuck you for judging me.
Yeah, I guess I haven't seen everything there is to see yet.
No, you haven't. You haven't. I'm not standing on my two legs right now, by the way.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
Hey now.
Hey.
I was wondering how you're wobbling back and forth like that.
So that's why I'm off balance. So one of the fun things that we get to do, so we get really hyped up about shit, right? A little crazy idea. And we're like, oh my God, wait. Usually,
and then she's got to hear it 24/7. She's like about ready to hang herself, right?
Right. But what the cool thing is she'll, just as I would to her, we like feed into it. We allow it to get super exciting, because sometimes
let it have a little growth.
When you get full volcanic on it, you can start solving some of the challenges that might actually come about, right? Because people will start questioning it. Oh, what about this? And you just get so fired up, you start to solve some of the problems.
Right.
But what that allows you to do is let it get so volcanic that if it doesn't still feel that way a few days down the line, you start to recognize, okay, wait a minute.
Right.
That was really cool 5 days ago when I was all hyped up on pre-workout and I had a great day at the gym.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We just finished having sex and everything was great. And now, let's go open up a chain of fucking, dog hotels.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. We love puppies.
Right.
And then you realize, okay, maybe that's not a budding, booming market.
Or you just kind of, maybe it's not necessarily like the worst idea, but maybe it's not a good fit for you at the time because you can't devote the time and energy to it. If you have something at this point for you, you're probably, a brick is probably far enough along to where you can probably move on to some other things at this point. But especially in the beginning, you couldn't really have anything that would slow you down or make you get stuck, right? You had to kind of keep plowing through all the different things of brick. And now you have how many locations?
There's 7 in the U.S.
You have 7. What's the goal?
So the goal for 2018 is to have 4 more license partners open up.
Cool.
And then I want in 2019, 10
awesome.
More to open up.
Right.
And then exponentially scale out after that. But yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head, right? Like if you can understand where you are at in life and how that affects these great ideas or things that you want to achieve. Because listen, if you have a quality job that gives you secure income and you have a family and kids with real responsibilities and people who rely on you to feed, you need to sit back for a minute and understand the risks that come into whatever new passionate idea comes about. But yeah, like you said, when I opened up Brick, I could run and gun hundreds of hours a week that were available to me, and it didn't matter. You know, if you're like, oh, you're overworking yourself. I was like, fuck you, man. I'm going to make it. You just go crazy on them. There's no such thing.
Yeah.
You know, now I take
no
a
such
step.
thing as overtraining.
There's no such thing.
They're like, dude, your eyes are pretty bloodshot, man. You're not looking.
You know what you're talking about, man?
You've been sick like 7 of the last 7 days in a row. You're not looking so good, man.
Just you know, spooning Jack 3D straight into my mouth.
Dude, I'm totally fine. Fuck you.
I'm so fine, man. So is it hot in here?
You know, and you know that you're in a funky spot too when you start to get injured. You know, you're doing your normal workouts, your normal routines, and like over the last couple of weeks, I mean, you know, I just put pressure on myself. There's not any extra pressure on me from anything. There's actually less pressure on me now probably than ever. But you know, I'm working on getting leaner, and I'm, you know, forcing myself into some of these diet things and stuff, and it just causes a level of stress. You know, you got to understand that everything that you do causes a level of stress. Exercise causes a level of stress. You trying to have more discipline can cause levels of stress.
That's right.
You working harder, working more can cause level, you know, and so you got to figure out like how, you know, how am I going to counteract some of this? What am I going to do to recover from some of this? Am I going to, are you someone that is able to get 7-8 hours of sleep, or
so
you suck at that?
I go in spurts, man. You know, I mean, I've had my times where I can get in bed at 10 and get up crack of dawn early and have a solid 7 and a half hours in me. And there's nights where, you know, I'm down in bed at 10, but like not falling asleep till 11, 12 o'clock, and then up at 2:30, 3 o'clock. And I may as well just get up and start my day at that point.
That's the worst.
Yeah. You know,
right.
You just get through it.
Yeah. I've noticed for myself, what cures some of that is, you know, having a habit of just waking up early. I wake up at about 4 o'clock every day, and just me setting that schedule. And I can be a little loose with it here and there. I can wake up at like 5:30 or something like that here and there. But even 5:30 is waking up quite a bit earlier than most. You know, a lot of people are probably waking up at 6 or 7, and who knows, you know, where else people are waking up. But I think that by waking up early, it forces me to go to bed early. You know, it's like, and if I go to, it's a weird thing, but if I go to bed at like 10, I'm not going to fall asleep. I don't know why, but I don't fall. It's just like not a good time for me to go to sleep. So if I go to sleep almost before I even recognize that I'm tired, I sleep just fine. So I'll go to sleep at 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30. But once it starts to be 10, I don't know, my mind starts racing, and I start thinking of other things that I want to do the next day.
Right. And then that'll get you gets your heart rate up. Gets
fucking with my phone and all other kinds of stupid
You find
shit.
yourself being like a creature of habit?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly can be. I can, you know, find myself I can make myself busy, you know, which is stupid. I don't need to. I just will sometimes kind of choose to, you know, and you're just kind of, you know, you're popping on other people's Instagrams, or you're responding to comments and stuff like that, which it can be important, but it almost needs to be like more scheduled, you know. It needs to be part of a day. I like to, you know, knock the day out from, you know, 4 until about, I don't know, 2 or 3, and then kind of be done. You know, usually that's how I try to structure most days. I like to get out in front of the day, sprint out real hard, and then just leave the rest of the day alone, and and have hardly any responsibilities other than hanging out with my kids and my wife, you know?
Yeah. You know, one thing that was said to me a while back that was really like an epiphany for me, and had some changing moments in the way that I behave, because I would have this issue where before I go to bed, write 1,000 reminders, right? I'm going to change the world tomorrow. Shit sounds like the ideas you come up with in your head right before you go to sleep, and the things you're going to do tomorrow, like shit's changing. I've got to figure it out. And then you wake up in the morning, you look at your reminders on your email, you're like, what the fuck was I thinking? God, I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Like if this guy shows up to work tomorrow, Brick's in trouble. You know, then you realize, okay, wait, because I would get caught up in the ideas like, okay, I'm a creature of habit to a certain regard. Is I would get caught up like, I've got to be busy. Right. If I'm the owner of these massive locations, I've got this global brand, like I should be busy doing busy work.
Right.
And I remember somebody, you know, close to me said, hey, you know, JP, it's okay if you're training jujitsu for a couple hours a day. You get up early, you get started, you do the things. Are you getting the key things done that need to get done to keep your, you know, ship moving forward? Like, yeah, I make sure those get done.
Right.
Well, then all these other things you're doing, you have to look at them as if they're fueling your creativity. because your job is to be creative. Right. Because if you're being creative and you're in this up tempo mode, you're servicing your people better, which means that they're going to be operating at a higher level and your business will run better. That's your job, right? Your job isn't to go in there and sit behind a computer and do 1,000 emails a day and write a bunch of companies and do all this kind of stuff.
Right.
Focus on your license partners, deliver a great product to them, make sure your people that have been delegated to are delivering a great product, and that the product on the floor in your actual gyms is a great product. Right. And then from there, you can operate optimally and more opportunities will come about.
And creativity is crucial. What if you, and I think that's why I think going on a walk is fucking great, because I think it allows you some time to think. A lot of other things that we do, just, that even while you're walking, it just by nature, it's, if you're walking at a pretty good clip, at a pretty good pace, it's kind of hard to like text or do anything on your phone. And so it's a good time to kind of, unplug from that. But if you wanted to, you could listen to like a podcast, you can listen to music. The big advantage there is a lot of times your mind will drift. You'll hear lyrics to a song or something, and next thing you know, you're thinking about something totally and completely different. And who knows, maybe that 20-minute walk, made you realize, like, holy shit, how cool would it be to bring all the owners of Brick all into one spot and have a big ass fucking party for them. And I can invite, a lot of celebrity fighters, and, you could just, this fucking great idea can just pop into your head that otherwise, if you didn't take that time to spend with yourself, basically, you would have never thought of that.
Yeah. I mean, one thing, so just another thing that's really awesome that my fiance and I really love to do is just drive around.
Yeah.
We might, even on a Saturday, that's our day. There's not a lot of shit going on. We love to,
that's when you know you're getting old, when you randomly drive around with no destination.
We love to, we thrive
I do that
on
with my
planning.
Kids sometimes. And like, where are we going? I'm like, nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, we going to In-N-Out Burger? I'm like, fuck no. I wish, but no. We're not.
We thrive on planning, no plans.
Yeah.
Like, babe, what do we plan this Saturday? Well, we've planned that nothing's going to go on. We're going to do whatever we decide to do at that time, right? And so we'll get in the car. We love to just wander and drive. And it's like you said, man, even with no music playing, and we banter a little bit back and forth, but we'll find, we'll zone out, into the environment. And it's some of the most relaxing, peaceful moments. And then you zone back in. And it's funny. She's like, well, what were you just thinking about? You look like you tuned out. I'm like, babe, I just had 90 ideas in my head. You want me to walk you down the path of craziness? Some of these you'll probably jump out of the car if I explain it to you. Because you don't want to. Some of this shit's just outrageous.
Like, you sicko.
Yeah.
You pervert. You want to do what?
Well, babe, I saw a tree with a rope. It was the whole thing. And you're in the car like, hey.
We have a camera. Whatever.
Whatever. We're young at heart.
That's
so,
right.
yeah, man. I mean, that's a big deal to be able to get out and do that.
Right.
And so it's helped me a lot. That's for sure.
I think, again, I think we underestimate the value of fitness. We sometimes underestimate the value of health. And I think, sometimes people hear the word fitness and it's got some stuff bonded to it that's not necessarily all positive. I think sometimes people feel a lot of guilt. They feel a lot of remorse. They have a lot of regret that they are not doing it as frequently as they should be. I know for myself, in some weird way, I end up being like almost like a religious figure to some people that I communicate with, because they will fucking avoid me like the plague when they're not following what they're supposed to be following. If I'm helping somebody with a diet, and they lose 10 pounds, they lose 15 pounds, things are going really good, and I don't hear from them for a little bit, I can almost text them back and say, you gained 10 pounds back, didn't you? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm going to have them nailed, because, there are some negative things associated with fitness sometimes. What do you think can help break down the barrier for some people? With your gym in particular, how do we, it's a really hard thing to figure out how you take somebody who's never experienced fitness into your gym, but maybe even just somebody who's kicked it around a couple times and maybe haven't had success at other gyms.
So two things. One of these things is a little bit newer, because something that you said yesterday I thought was really impactful that I look forward to sharing with my team.
Stealing my ideas.
Stealing your shit, just snapping photos of it. So you said more people need to work in as opposed to work out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that.
And that is stolen. I got to give credit. That is stolen from Paul Chek. If you're not familiar with Paul Chek, please look up all his stuff. He's got great free information on YouTube.
Yeah. And so that's really awesome. I can't wait to share that with my team, let them understand, hey man, you're spending 4 hours a day working out physically, but what about spending some time? We always can tell them like, you should be reading books and doing all this kind of stuff. But how about working out mentally and emotionally?
So you've hit the bag for how many years? You've hit a heavy bag for how many years?
Just forever is what it seems.
Like 20 something or maybe 30 years, right? And it wasn't until you got older, until you got wiser, that you started to recognize like, oh my God, this is like, this is a totally different experience from when I was a kid. Maybe when you're 15, maybe you're pissed,
right?
Maybe you're, I don't know, maybe just when you're young, you're full of fucking testosterone and sometimes you have a lot of like anger, so maybe just punching the fuck out of the bag and you're thinking about people that disrespected you and you're thinking about people that you just don't like.
Right. Well, I mean, it still happens today.
Yeah. Well, it can. Yeah, it sure can. But as you get older, you become wiser. And you are kind of like, man, this is really training my brain. This is training my will, and when coach says to, do this or coach says to do that, not only am I not going to like give up, but I'm going to fucking go harder. When he gives me these challenges, I'm going to be excited for them because I want to advance. I want to make myself better. I want to get better every day.
Right.
And you don't really think that way as, when you're younger. And so I think it is a really important message because working out is kind of like gritting your teeth and clenching your fists and going as hard as you can go, which is great. But working a little bit more inward, going back to that heavy bag, working inward by definition of what Paul Chek talks about is to do stuff that doesn't really elevate your heart rate too much. So he's talking about really bringing it down. He's talking about almost like meditation and things like that. But I think for most of us, any slowed down version of fitness would probably work really well, whether it be stretching or whether it be instead of trying to jack the shit out of the bag and try to smash it, maybe you're just working on some technique. Maybe you're working on rolling the hips and maybe you're just thinking about family. You're thinking about,
that's right.
You think about other things.
Yeah, just flowing.
Yeah, just whatever is coming to mind, you're thinking about those things rather than, going from a place of like anger or something like that.
Right, because then the outcome is different. When you're coming from a place of anger in some of these other areas, you're leaving and you're feeling exhausted, you're spent, you're physically spent, emotionally feel spent. I feel like if you're talking about like where you work, if you're working in and you do it at that level, you can leave almost feeling refreshed. Like,
and you
wow,
think about, what do you admire? Like, what do we admire the most, out of everything that you ever see, somebody being hot-headed and punching someone out. Occasionally that's kind of cool, but not really, not in the grand scheme of things. It's just not the right thing to do, in most cases. But what we truly admire is when people are fucking cool, calm, and collected. Somebody comes in here, they start yelling and screaming at you and you're like, hey man, I'm sorry you're having a bad day, but I can't help you out. I ain't fighting you, or
that's right.
You just, you know what I mean? But if it did come down to that, then of course you got to protect yourself. You got to take care of yourself. But that's what we honor the most, when it comes to war, when it comes to fighting, when it comes to any of these things, when it comes to professional football. You think of like Tom Brady, you're like, he's always been the coolest under pressure. That's what we loved seeing the most. Now, if he unfolded and started to become a lunatic every time he threw an interception, he would have, like they still had a chance in that Super Bowl,
right,
to win. And he's proven himself time and time again. And that's what you end up admiring the most. Or you see as a young child, you see your dad working his ass off every single day, and you kind of start to add up to you. It starts to mean something to you as you get older and you see all the pressure that they're under. And then you think about it as you get older. And you're like, wow, man, my parents were doing some pretty good shit for me.
That's right.
When I was a kid.
Yeah, man. And the second thing I was going to say when you were asking about Brick is that's part of the magic that we want to deliver. So we want people to feel that in the overall experience when they walk into Brick. So from the front desk staff to the coaching staff to people to even just members that have been around for a while, is that the idea when you walk in there is that there is this level of calm, even though there's these really intense workouts going on. And from the calm comes a more comfortable environment to communicate, develop relationships, feel comfortable. Because if it was a hot-headed environment, which you could define any way, but let's just say a hot-headed, really alpha, testosterone lit, really what you would think by watching CrossFit video style environment, then somebody who's not looking for that or has too much of that in their workplace, they're going to walk in and just turn around and walk out, or they're not going to last long there. They might get injured or emotionally it's not even doing well for them.
We talked about that the other day when you said you went to some classes, you and your fiance, and these classes were they were like loud.
Yeah.
And people were, and that is to elicit a certain response, and maybe that's cool for that particular gym. But man, like, it's just noise in general like that just kind of sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it can expend a lot of energy from you. I think, things that I admire in people is to watch somebody focus in and hone in on one thing and just fucking destroy it. And whenever you see it in sport, you admire it, but something bad's about to happen sometimes because there's too many distractions nowadays. You have somebody like Bones Jones, right? Like just destroying people. Roy Jones Jr., then he started playing like pro basketball, right? I mean, you have these guys that they're so good at one thing and they hone in, they focus, and you see some, Mike Tyson, you see some true greatness going on. You're like, holy shit. This is fucking amazing. And it doesn't matter what they do. They can be a comedian, could be Joe Rogan, right? Like, it doesn't matter who it is. You watch them hone in and focus in on one point. And part of the thing of focusing in on one point and dominating is to be able to block out a lot of noise. And what a terrible way it is to work out when you got someone like yelling and screaming at you. Now, if you're lifting heavy and the intensity is high, then maybe that's warranted, right?
Yeah, I heard something cool once. I'm pretty sure this is how it went, but if I get it wrong, the internets and your
you're
fans
already off the team. How much worse could it get?
Yeah, your internets and your fans can crush me. But so they asked Jerry Seinfeld, I believe it was, who he believes is the greatest comedian of all time. And, with Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy and some of these just greats that have been out there, he said Chris Rock. And the person who was interviewing was like, really? Not to say that Chris Rock's not an amazing comedian. They said, Chris Rock, of everybody, Chris Rock? And he goes, and this is what he said. He said, yes, because of all the comedians I've ever heard, Chris Rock is the only guy I've witnessed tell the same joke 1,000 times as if it was the first and best time he's ever told that one joke.
Yeah.
And so it's like what you're talking about, honing in. A comedian could get on stage and be like, it's my 33rd show with the same fucking joke. Tired. And then they wonder why, like, they're not the Kevin Hart, the Dave Chappelle, the Chris Rock, Jerry Seinfeld, because these guys no noise.
Yeah.
They know the craft and they are going to hone in on it almost as like a detriment to anything else they have going on in life.
Right.
That is what's going to be, the most important.
Yeah. And you look at someone like Steve Jobs was great at that. He would he said time and time again, like, we don't do a lot of things very well. We do a couple of things really awesome. That's our focus. We're trying to hone in on one thing, and it gets to be really hard with business. And it can be really hard too with comments and stuff that you hear, oh, Brick, they should add more CrossFit, or Brick should add, and you're like, I don't know what to take from who, but you do have to listen to people a little bit. So how do you take some of that in sometimes, constructive criticism or constructive assessment of your business?
Yeah, man, I think the key to that is really understanding early on what the core values of the business are. And and also knowing that you have
that's the word right there, value.
Yeah, what your values are, right? And now you have a team. Hopefully, you've been a great team captain that's created a winning team, and they have fully bought into those values as well, right? And you've hired based on those values. And if you start to sway from those because you're listening to outside noise without including your team and getting a more of a group consensus and understanding of what, because sometimes us as owners, we can lose sight. Right? Because we start to think, oh, maybe I'm just getting too old-minded or stonewalled in this idea. And and they can sometimes humble you.
Right.
Be like, no, JP, remember, that is not what we do here. And you as an owner, you want to be like, no, fuck you. I tell you what we do here. And then you look at me and go, wait a minute. You actually know better than I do.
Yeah.
That's why I can pat myself on the back now. I actually did well because you're doing what I need you to do.
Right.
Which is keep me on track.
It's the whole point of being a mentor and a coach and everything else. I got guys in here that, are out lifting me left and right. And people are like, man, that's got to be hard to watch. Or I'm like, oh my, are you kidding me? Like, this makes me feel awesome.
Yeah,
makes me feel amazing.
Right now, you have the Open coming around, right? And so my team in LA has put together these big CrossFit Open events and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just so proud. I look at some of these things they're doing, and they're bigger and grander than I ever did.
Yeah.
You know, and instead of me trying to go in there and pee on their sandwich at their picnic, it's like, you know, look at it and be like, hey, can I just have a seat at the table and enjoy this thing that you've magically created?
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's super cool. And to me, it really does, you know, and really answering your questions comes back to understanding your core values and making sure that you're readdressing them. You're sitting back down and going, wait a minute. When we were super passionate and had really clear minds of what we wanted to do as a team, this was it.
Right.
These were our 10 commandments. And just because they're telling us now that we need to add a shake weight class, that can't be it. And to further to your point, we see that problem through so many professional, not just in fitness, but many business owners, where they start to hone in on other avenues because they think it's going to generate more revenue. You know, and then you look at them and go, wait a minute, are you a functional fitness facility or a t-shirt company? Because when I walked into your gym, you have 90 different t-shirt designs and 40 of each style and size.
Yeah.
So you have $20,000 in inventory in here and you're going broke in your business.
Right.
You know, people always come into Brick and they're like, oh, how come you guys don't have more retail? You don't have more retail. I tell them, because we're not a retail company. My product's on the floor.
Right.
I need to learn how to produce better of that. That's my focus. Right. When we have time, we create a cool t-shirt here or there, and we release it. Right. And I make that analogy.
There's a want. You know, there's a need and a want for it. Yeah.
I make that analogy in seminars all the time. Like if you're spending more creative time a week on your next t-shirt design, your next flyer design, than you are in your business, you're going out of business.
Yeah, you got to stick and move. You know, you got to get in and out of stuff quick.
You got to.
You can't accumulate. You know, you can't receive a lot of damage. You know, hopefully you're giving some and you're getting in and out of there and you're not getting caught up or stuck anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, something that, you know, here at Super Training, you know, that's been great is just, you know, trying to, over the last 11 years, you know, it's taken some time, but creating a culture, you know, and then through Slingshot, which was started in 2010, the same thing has happened. The guys and girls that work here at Slingshot, we don't have a lot of people. I think maybe people would think the company would be bigger, you know, but we have a staff of about 10 people. And they all they kill it, man. I was texting our customer service girl, Rosemary, who you guys worked out with this morning, on Thanksgiving Day, because we had some issues with our website, and we had some issues with people were trying to order something and something jacked up was happening. Boom, she was right on it. She was all over it. Andrew will, you know, if we were going to fucking podcast till midnight, he's right here with me. And he doesn't, you know, on the way out, he's not like, hey man, that fucking sucked. We were here to, you know, because there's a lot of good opportunity here, and what we've been able to create, I'm truly proud of. And one thing I think that's really crucial for every owner and every leader and anybody who's trying to run a company, please understand this fact. And this is something I shared with my cousin recently. Her husband owns a DJ type of business. He does a lot of weddings and things of that nature, like DJs weddings and so forth. And she just said that he works a lot. You know, he actually works in the business a lot. And you've heard this a million times. You know, work outside the business and some of these things, right? But my advice was just a slightly different than that, and it was that, you know, understand that if I hire JP to work here at Slingshot, and you know, I start to hire him for marketing concepts, I need to fully understand that it is fucking possible that JP, the guy that I hired, that I think is right for the job, comes in with a way fucking better idea than I did. You come in with a way better idea than I have. And that, I don't think enough people are willing to accept that. But why not? It's still victory. You're still winning. Right. You know, I still selected to team up with you. And then you came in and you had this cool, hot idea. How can I not turn some things over to you? You know, how can I, you have to at some point. You got to turn some shit over to your team and say, hey man, you know, what do you guys think of this? And then they rattle something off and you're like, oh shit, man, okay, man, you got one on me. You know, you got a fucking great idea. We should roll with that.
Yeah. If you want your team to work and act like owners, at times you have to respect their ideas as if they were an owner.
Yeah.
And that's hard for some people to do, right?
Yeah. It's an ego thing sometimes can get in the way.
And, that can come down to, like, for you, that's really special to have a team like that, because that can come down to either being really great at hiring the right people or being able to hire people and creating the right environment for them to be in
Right.
where they've learned that this is a place that's something that they want to see it win. So even if they don't feel like they're going to be here for 30 years, while they're here, they want Slingshot to win.
Yeah.
And that's important. Like that's
the way you want people to be like branded.
I wish that on all of my team, and hope that for everybody I hire, where same thing. I understand that it's Thanksgiving, but the thing that we're all passionate about that is allowing us to enjoy this Thanksgiving is in need of our attention for just a few minutes.
Right.
So
the new car that you just bought, or the new house you just invested in, or whatever it is, right? Like, we're all able to, if the company advances, we're all going to reap the benefits continually.
For sure. We all win.
Yeah.
And I think, but what's important, and I'm sure it's a testament to how you behave with your team, is that owners make sure they do that.
Right.
Right. And that was something that I learned early on. I did have a mentor that was not great at that, and seeing what not to do is, hey, dude, you can't be getting grossly rich and throwing it around and making it rain. And the people that are starving alongside you are the ones that are actually helping you get that.
Right.
Like, you need to be sharing that, and then there'll be an abundance.
And that gets to be a little bit tough too with employees, because, at some point you want people to kind of stay hungry, like almost literally, you want people to have a certain hunger built inside of them, that if you start someone off at, $20,000 a year, and they're working, and they see that almost every single time that they perform, or that they perform slightly better than what was asked of them, they get rewarded for it at nearly every turn, which can sometimes be hard to keep track of, because you get a lot of people flying around and working really hard. You're going to get a shit ton out of that person, and they're going to continue to build and continue to grow, and they're going to continue to have more opportunity every year. I mean, if somebody's doing their job and they're progressing, then why wouldn't you be able to give them more, especially if the company's growing? Yeah.
Well, what do they say now? Like, the issue is with these millennials is they want to be told they're doing a good job for doing their job. It's like, hey, you get a good job and a pat on the back when you do things that are, above and beyond, a little extraordinary. That's what allows you to excel. I'm not going to walk around patting you on the ass.
That's what's so great about building a good team, building a strong team. And even like, in terms of actual super training, somebody would come in and maybe they think they're jacked, they think they're strong or whatever, and they lift with the group, and the group's like, fucking show me something. And you deal with that with Jiu Jitsu all the time. But it can be the same thing in the work environment, where when you got people that really hustle and that really are strong at what they do, when the new guy comes in and be like, show me what's up, man. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you leaving at 4:30? Where are you going? And they they do that to each other here. Where are you going? I'm going to grab lunch. No, you're not. They're just giving each other shit. You know what I mean? But it's creating that environment that I think is, really a really cool thing.
Yeah. Everybody gets to hold each other accountable. We do that joke in LA. Like, somebody, one of my managers will be leaving. They were there at 6 a.m. right? And they'll be leaving at 6 p.m. They've already logged a 12-hour day.
Half day.
That's what I do. I see them. I'm like, oh, half day today, huh? Must be nice. Yeah. And meanwhile, I just strutted back in 40 minutes ago, and everybody gets a kick out of it. It's just a reminder, we're all here to hold each other accountable, and we've got a goal.
What drives you? I mean, you've done a lot of cool stuff, and you have a lot of great things going on business wise. You're a professional kickboxer. Did you do any MMA fights as well?
So I did like Shudo style fights. They had, so we had to wear like the shin guards, and there's some more rules.
Almost like pancrase kind of thing?
Yeah. So I dabbled. I don't claim to be an MMA fighter. I don't claim to have been, the world's greatest at any of that. My specialty was really striking. I had a pretty good ground awareness, and that's what I did. And, it's, for me, but that's what's, really important.
I mean, it says here on you, I got a little stat sheet on you, and it says here that you beat Renzo Gracie.
No, I don't believe I ever said that. I wouldn't be dumb enough. Master Renzo, if you're listening, I love you, buddy. I actually know him, and Hope he doesn't hear that and think that's true.
That's not true.
No.
Oh, I don't know what we gathered up then. We maybe gathered up
an incorrect fact. That I beat him in his.
So did you train with him?
I did. Cool. Yeah. So Master Henzo is the guy who gave my original jiu-jitsu coach his black belt, and
awesome.
who I've been able to meet. He lives in New York, and I've been able to bump into him. He's been to Brick a bunch.
Awesome.
And he's very friendly with a lot of people I know, as well as my current jiu-jitsu coach.
Right.
Really good. By the way, Master Henzo, if you ever get a chance, if you could ever get him on this podcast, he'd be an amazing guest. He's a special,
cool. He's in Los Angeles.
Guy. He's in New York mostly.
New York, okay.
But he travels a bunch, and he's a really special guy. We got to try to make that connection.
Yeah, no, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know Bo Jackson by any chance?
I don't, but I'm sure by law,
proximity,
separation, I probably know one or two people who do.
What about who else have we been working on? Oh, The Rock. I know The Rock a little bit, but maybe you know him better. I don't know.
Better than you.
Damn,
not better than you. But you asked me what motivates me, man. I mean,
what drives you?
Right now. It's a mix of two things, and I'm not going to be shy to say this on microphone. Like, I still want to get really rich, and I'll define that. Mm-hmm. One is by the old-fashioned way, money.
Stacks of money. You want to make a fucking rap video.
I want to make
girls
it
with giant
rain.
asses. Oh, sorry.
Make it rain.
Yeah.
Right. And there's listen, I can make fun of that, but for a lot of reasons, right? Because having an abundance of money allows you to do more charitable work for more people, which I enjoy doing. Allows you to take better care of your family. If someone in your family gets sick, as we've known somebody, with money, you can have better care for them. And with money, you can just do more things for more people, right? So let's put the money aside, and you can do more awesome shit.
Yeah, the fundraiser that we went to, the fundraiser dinner that raised over $400,000.
Yeah,
for
that's amazing.
Cancer.
And
crazy.
You look at like some of those billionaires in the room, and I'm like getting fired up, thinking, shit, I want to be a billionaire because I want to be able to buy $30,000, $50,000, $70,000 items at an auction and get like a kick out of the fact that not only am I doing good, but I bought something cool, and it didn't matter how much it cost.
Right.
It was the fact that I did something cool, and so we get that out of the way. I want to make a shit ton of money. Right. And that motivates me. And I know
it does make you feel good. And it's not something that really people talk about much. You can definitely get stressed out about it too much, just like you could with trying to, be too awesome at jiu-jitsu or trying to, be too awesome in powerlifting or whatever, if there is such a thing as being too awesome. I'm just saying you get so stuck on the numbers, you get stuck on the black belt and what belt you have and who you're fighting, and it can be very healthy. But it can also be kind of unhealthy.
Yeah.
Where everything else in your life is on hold because you're trying to be a fucking brown belt or whatever it is.
That's right. Yeah. And so, my balance is knowing that I also, what motivates me is to be soon to be a great husband. Right. And then just what I've really been trying to do is become a better friend.
Yeah.
And having a fiance who's a better human than I am, she's helped me become a better friend to my existing friends, even some that I've had for 30 years. And then once
Isn't that weird?
It's weird.
When you get older, you like really start to value that more.
It's like more important now than I can ever remember. But it's more special now, right? And I don't know why, but it just, to me, maybe because now you realize the value of time.
Yeah.
Right. And so I've put a higher level of value on that and try not to waste it as much. And so, the third component is I want to be on a mission. And because I would have all the money and have the balance in the relationship, is to be able to just help as many people as possible in what I know about. And that's the fitness business.
Right.
Right. Like, I'm not trying to go around and, cure any type of disease, or, if I will, I donate time to go do charity work and build homes in Haiti, but that's not my specialty.
Right.
Right. What I can do is help people that have taken big risk, that are supporting themselves and or their families, make their businesses succeed so that they can get that wealth to have a better lifestyle, provide better care for their family, and go do more charitable work. And hopefully they're good people and do good shit. I would say it's like do more good shit for people.
Yeah. You seem like an OG in a lot of ways, with the fighting background and the CrossFit background. You were involved in combat sports before they were cool. You were involved in CrossFit before it became cool, right? And it sounds to me also, some of the information you shared with me about, it sounded like you were a very young entrepreneur as well. And now, everybody's an entrepreneur. everybody who's unemployed,
right,
throws that word around. Were you a natural at that? Or is that a thing? Like, did dad have that, or somebody in your past? You saw someone who's really good at sales or something. You have that kind of slickness to you, or is that something that you really developed?
Yeah, it was my dad. For sure, because he is your old school, like, so he was raised like virtually in the ghettos of Argentina, right? And so he's got that story. Came over and he's the American dream. Made it out here, worked hard, put himself through college, went to the army, served during the time of Vietnam. Like he's done it, right? And he is one of the world's greatest salesmen. Like he's got that. And from old school, like New York style insurance salesman type stuff, right?
He just sold you something you're not sure what the fuck it was.
What the fuck did I just buy?
Holy shit. That guy was super nice though.
God, he was fun to hang out with. That dude's crazy. Yeah, that's my dad, right? And
that's awesome.
Yeah. And so I picked that up at an early age because I always gravitated towards him in that way, and I remember early on in my early teens, he would take me to certain meetings where I even feel like now, and I look back on it, people must have been like, why the fuck is your son in this meeting? Like we're having some giant ass deal meeting. What's your son doing here? And I was just able to be, privy to that and feel it and sense it and see the importance of it and watch him talk to everybody around him. And so that helped. And he too was that way. He had a lot of business ideas and would get into things and try things and take risk. And you would ask him like, are you sure you want to do that? And he just, I remember just hearing him telling people like, well, if I don't fucking do it, someone else will, I'm not going to let them make the money on it, or hell, if I don't try it, I'll never know.
I remember, my dad, he did, so my dad, he got laid off from IBM. IBM headquarters was in Poughkeepsie, New York, and they had some just ridiculous amount of employees for a long time. Then at some point they downsized, and it was like right around his like 20-year mark of him being there. He was going to be able to get a pension and everything, but they released him, kind of before he could get any of that. But without any real change or without slowing down at all, he just rolled right into doing income taxes and into doing real estate. And it's some stuff I never really thought about much until, I pushed this business along, and I'm, people have asked me, hey, where did that come from? I'm like, I don't know, and then I'm like, oh, I've been around that forever, figuring shit out on your own kind of thing.
Problem solving, right?
Yeah, for a long time. My dad wasn't like, oh man, I got 3 kids. I'm going to, he didn't collect unemployment and just fucking bum around. He started to work. He started to make money, and still this day, he just picked up like another 300 clients or something. Like he's still, he's going to be 70 this year.
They're the real definition of grinding, not the Instagram version of grinding.
No, I've never grinded out anything in my fucking life. I can say that with confidence. Compared to my dad, or compared to my grandfather who built his own house, built his own fucking car.
Yeah.
My grandpa built his own fucking car. How the fuck do you build a car?
Yeah. How do you do that? I don't know. I love cars.
I don't know how
to buy cars.
I don't even know how to use a fucking hammer, much less build a goddamn house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Jesus.
It's like out of necessity. But I think what it comes down to, and you probably thrive on this, which is where some of your creativity is driven from, and how you, from the story I got, how you created the slingshot, is it comes down to like problem solving.
Yeah.
Some people fall and crack under that, and some people thrive on it.
Right.
Like on certain reality game shows, we would crush, not just because we'd be awesome and fucking roll around shirtless with, some kick-ass MCT oil on us. Be MCT.
Just gotta be MCT, yeah.
Keto.
Keep it safe.
Yeah, keep it safe, for the kids. But it's about problem solving. So, you ask, like, I just feel like since I was a kid, that was always something I would thrive on. If I saw someone or somebody had a problem, and I don't mean like an emotional problem necessarily, but something, I would be fixated on trying to solve that. Like,
you had a lot of like businesses early on. Like what you were telling me some different stuff. What are some different things that you were exploring over the years?
So one of the coolest things, you probably pull this up on the internets and some historicals on it, was when I was a sophomore in college. So I was skiing a lot when I was at University of Colorado at Boulder, and we'd go up to the mountain. Inline skating was really cool back then. We'd go up to the mountain. I saw these kids rolling around on these short skis that looked like Big Feet. And they were called Big Feet from a company called Kneisel.
Smokey, you know about any of this stuff? These short skis?
Yeah, I had a pair, kind of a junky pair.
Yeah, so
he likes to ski.
Oh, right on. So early on, there was no industry for it. It was just a bunch of, it was kind of like how snowboarding took off from surfers that wanted to get on the mountain, and Jake Burton and some of these guys that fired up the industry. These kids in Breckenridge, Colorado were doing this. And through a longer story, I had learned how to create these and build them by hand out of LA and work with epoxies and fiberglasses, etc. Would have been 20.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right out of college, like from the end of high school and whatnot, I would go whenever I had breaks in time. I'd drive out to this guy's place and learn how to do this stuff. And I saw a problem that I linked up with these guys. I was like, whoa, that shit's cool. And I was on a mono ski. So that was really unique, which is where you face forward basically on what looks like a racing snowboard.
That just sounds like death to me.
Yeah, it's a wild story.
I just ate shit 7 times in my head.
Yeah, it's actually easier than skiing once you figure it out, because you only have one edge to worry about, not 4.
People always tell me that stuff's
you have 2,
easy,
not
and
4.
I always kill myself on it.
Yeah. And so they thought that was cool. We kind of linked up and connected. Yeah, so the guy on the right is actually I think they're both actually wearing mine. The one on the right's my pro model. So the ones on the left, I think, are called the Skywalker. So anyways, so they were breaking them.
That had to be really easy to make skis, right?
Yeah. I mean, what's that take? A little glue and a few razor blades?
Or is it just a fucking piece of wood that you just sand down and throw some oil on? You go down the hill, right?
So here's what's crazy. So I went back to LA and I manufactured a bunch of sample pairs. We went up there and I was telling you the story. Like, we broke a shit ton of them on like pair 12 of 14. Like, if I got to 14, my dreams were crushed,
shattered.
On pair 12, it was like we had figured it out, and we knew we were onto something. Went back and made a bunch of them, handed them out to the kids. They started riding around on them. And talk about manifesting shit and just like opening up opportunity. A guy who owned an inline skating shop in town was a rich guy from up around here, like Palo Alto, Northern California, who at the time had like 20 inline skating shops. Oh, shit. And he came to me, he said, hey man, if you can fulfill an order of several thousand pairs at the time. Yeah, there it is, man. Those are mine on the left, I believe. Yeah, that's them. So, he said, I'll buy them from you. I was like, well, fuck, I don't have a factory. I don't have a manufacturing plant. I've got my buddy's place. So I asked my buddy if he'd make them. He's like, I can't make that many pairs. I make these for my buddies, and we just smoke marijuana and do martial arts. Right. And I was like, well, oh, shit. So, of course, I went to my dad, and my dad's like, if you've got an order, we've got skis.
That's right.
Old school.
Right. That's
it's
great.
Like, hey, Dad, do you sell refrigerators? Are you buying one?
Yeah, of course.
If you're buying, I'm selling. And, man, we went to furniture auctions where we bought a huge furniture press, and we found a guy that welded up some hydraulic pressing, and we had a bunch of aluminum molds whittled up. I mean, it was a crazy
and that's
story.
When you tell the guy that has the order, be like, hey, we reformulated these skis. This is a newer design. It's gonna be way better than the older one, so it's gonna take a little bit longer.
So,
right?
So here's the story.
Some bullshit like that.
But here's the story. Not far from that. So the dude came out. He wanted to see the factory before he cut us the check for the order. And all I had was basically like like the back end. My dad took new offices where the back had a warehouse to kind of oversee his investment in his son. So I left Boulder to start this company. Because if I had an order, I had a business. And my dad let me do it. So I zipped back to LA, left a high-end university to come back to LA and like follow his dream of making skis. And we borrowed tools from my buddy's dad's workshop, who had a bunch of saws and shit, and put them in the back of this room where you could see through the garage door. And when the dude showed up in town, because he wanted to see the shop, if he's going to give us, a couple $100,000, he wants to know we can make these things. I'm just like a little college kid with no idea, like bleached blonde hair or something. And he looks in the window and he's like, all right, where's the real shop? I said, I can't show that to you. That's over there. And, we have proprietary information, how we make these things. This is the R&D facility. But if you look in, you can see the press. I can't let you in there because you'll see our capping reasons. Technology and stuff. And he's like, okay. And, I don't know what I did. I probably just bullshitted him over lunch or whatever it was. And he cut the check and we were in fucking business. And we fulfilled the order. And like from then, it turned into, we ended up making this industry. We had 2 years. We were in the X Games.
Oh,
so
wow.
I don't even remember what year it was, like 1994 or 5, to meet Ron Semio at the time, who was the founder of the X Games.
Wow.
At Snow Summit, with a guy named Tate Tyndall. He and I, and he's
That
out there.
sounds like
Tate,
a fake,
wherever
that's
you
a
are.
fake name alert right there.
Yeah, I don't even know if he's still alive. Tate, wherever you are, man.
Tate Tyndall sounds like a porn name.
Yeah, we went out with a bunch of guys and we rode Snow Summit in front of Ron Semio in the half pipe to show what these skis could do. And they put it in the first 2 X Games.
Holy
We did it as an
shit.
exhibition sport with me and a bunch of guys. And then it picked up a little bit. And Trace Worthington, who was announced his freestyle skiing for the Olympics. He was one of my riders.
Wow.
So we had a Trace Worthington pro model, and it grew. And then what happened was, outside of where the industries went, the bigger companies caught on to it and started manufacturing them at a much lower price and out of Europe, and had more marketing dollars. And then the short ski fad kind of ended and went back to a little bit of a longer ski, but the freestyle skiing industry blew up, and it kind of took back some of that business that was going into the snowboard world. But we were manufacturing those too. I made a lot of promo products. I made the snowboards for the Nagano Olympics for all of the media members that were in the Nagano Olympics. So it was pretty cool.
This has kind of happened to you a bunch of different times. When you were even younger, you created something for a shopping cart, right? You were telling me?
Oh yeah, man, this is devastating. You want to bring this up?
Sorry.
Yeah. So I was,
How old were you?
oh man, it's like between 11 and 13. I used to, after school, go right away early, to karate practice, and then mom would pick me up and we'd go to the supermarket every day
Something
shopping.
just so cool. Even when he told me yesterday about karate practice, I just automatically think Karate Kid, and I automatically think like somebody stuffing you in your locker or somebody giving you a wedgie, and you're like, I'm gonna do
You have
karate.
no idea how well I connected with that movie.
I'm gonna do karate. I'm come back. I'm gonna kick your ass.
I'm gonna fuck you up, Johnny.
Yeah.
So that's coming back, by the way.
Oh my god, I can't wait.
They're
for
like
that.
bringing it back as like a Netflix show or something.
Oh, my
And they're bringing
God.
Johnny back, and they're bringing Daniel LaRusso, and I
Holy
guess
shit.
Johnny's reopening Cobra Kai Dojo.
What about Mr. Miyagi? He's coming back.
I mean, if Jesus can,
Yeah.
Miyagi sure as shit can.
I hope so.
He waxed off a lot. That dude will be back.
Yeah, more than I do. I think.
Yeah, it's possible. Well, I don't know. We'll see. So, anyways, saw a problem, was holding on to all these coupons that mom had, and needed to come up with a way that was more organized. And I thought I had the $1 billion idea, which was to create a portable coupon organizer that would attach to the handle of the supermarket, the
shopping cart.
the shopping cart.
Yeah.
So somehow my dad finagled the market to lend us one. Because, those things nowadays, they have like heat sensors on them and fucking stop brakes
They
on
got
them.
GPS will blow
GPS.
blinding gas in your face and shit.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. And, I whittled in the garage and, just worked weeks on end and trying to sketch it up, and was getting to a point where I wanted to submit this thing for a patent. Had a cup holder and had a bunch of shit on it that was like really awesome.
Well, how are your parents? I mean, you said your dad helped you, get the shopping cart and stuff. Were they super supportive of it? Like, they were so, like,
they loved all this.
pumped that your brain was working this way. And
Yeah,
everything?
yeah, and listen, I wasn't a great student, but I wasn't a bad kid. So they didn't have to. They didn't have to worry about the discipline components. They might as well feed the creativity.
Don't have to worry about you being a prick.
Yeah, I wasn't. I wasn't a douchebag.
Yeah.
And man, I was what I thought was going to be the final stages of the $1 billion idea. And I was going to have my own helicopter, and I was going to take that to school every day, and it was going to be awesome, right? And probably buy the school, fire all the teachers. Like, there was a whole thing that was
Just run
happening in my head.
Yeah. It already happened.
It already happened for sure. And I'll never forget it, man. I turned the TV on and I'm watching a fucking infomercial come on TV, and it's some woman selling the shit out of this foldable coupon organizer that attaches
my-
to a shopping cart
Say it ain't
with
so.
like a layout cup holder on it. And I can't remember exactly what it was this day, but I remember seeing there was a couple extra items that she had on it that I was like, fuck, how could I not think of that? Like, that shit was even better than mine. And I was devastated, And I, like, in my head, when I think back on it, that cart is probably still sadly sitting on the side yard of that house, like rusting away.
Aw.
And it just never amounted,
Just broken dreams.
Yeah, just broken dreams, And somebody walks by and they're like, hey, how did that cart get there? And they're like, oh, we'll tell you the story one day about good old JP and the cart,
That's really cool. I mean, that's a sign that you had great parents, that your mind could, wander into such a, such an interesting place, right? Like, you're not worried about, where the next meal is coming from. You're not worried about abuse. You're not worried about, you're worried about something that's like fun, exciting, something that's positive.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, man, I see kids I see even grown-ups these days that are addicted to like video games and they never see daylight. Like they just don't get out of the house. And when I was a kid, I mean, I lived that life where I remember all your buddies showing up at 7 or 8 a.m. in the morning, knocking on your door and ready to go bike riding. And you would leave for hours on end. Hell, I mean, I even shit myself one day. We were out so long and I had a stomach ache. Shit myself on the way home. I'm like,
that happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
It happened to me before the podcast.
I'm shitting myself right now, you know? And I was just never like sucked into that world of video games. And I mean, we had them available.
You'd rather be out riding your bike, shitting yourself.
Yeah, I'd rather be out like what I thought was doing the raddest wheelies and hopping, you know, ramps and doing awesome shit and stealing Slurpees from the local 7-Eleven. You know, that kind of stuff.
All the fun stuff.
All the good stuff kids should be doing.
What do you got going on coming up? Anything in particular? Heading anywhere? Traveling? Do you travel much?
I used to travel quite a bit, you know, getting to New York and Boston, Chicago locations and checking them out a whole bunch. But I've been able to try to slow that down and really just focus on the bigger picture of Brick and the exponential growth.
And you compete in Jiu Jitsu. Like you just had the tournament this weekend or something, right?
Yeah, yesterday. So really, you know, that's not mentally taxing me too much. I try not to make it like the sole focus because I do have other things that I want to, you know, expend my energy on. But it's a fun distraction. It's a youthful, fun distraction for me. I really enjoy it. I do train really hard and I take it very seriously. But right now, yeah, look at that. Look at that sexy man with the medal. So, you know, right now, the real focus outside of all the things in my personal life is to get Brick to a place where I can scale it out globally at a rapid pace. Because I know it's ready.
Cool.
It's ready. And, you know, if there's anybody listening to this podcast that's interested in potentially you know, looking at a license opportunity or has an existing functional fitness center that maybe needs some brand, you know, bump to it or looking to do something interesting. I mean, that's what I'm eager to meet those people and create those relationships.
Can anyone go to Brick and work out, or is it more of a training studio? Like you have to have a coach or something like that?
Oh no, it's for everybody.
You can just,
anybody who wants to just have a great workout.
Even me, even someone like me.
Well, I mean, you know, we can discuss it. Maybe off air.
Maybe if I wear a helmet.
I think you need to be in a helmet and a bench t-shirt.
When are you getting married? You guys have a date yet?
We do. Yeah. June 23rd.
Woo!
Did I get that right, babe?
Yeah. Man, that sounds like pretty serious. Sounds like it's kind of like locked in and stuff.
I mean, there's still an opt-out.
Yeah. There's got to be something.
There's got to be a way, man.
Anyway, man, awesome having you here on the podcast. Awesome having you here at Super Training Gym. JP is somebody I met through our good homie, our good friend, Jason Kalipa. And I did a speaking engagement a while back where JP was the host and you were announcing, and you had the craziest intros I've ever heard for me, Jason, and some of the other guys that were on the board. Where'd you come up with some of that shit?
This mind works in mysterious ways, my friend. I think one of yours was you were the man that had slung more slingshots than a hillbilly in Alabama.
See, that's what I'm talking about right there. You'll have to give us, if you have it written down somewhere, give it to us and we'll share it.
Oh, I do. Yeah. I'll send it to you before I leave here.
Yeah, we'll share it on the podcast. Anyways, great having you here. It's great meeting your fiance, Chris, and I wish you guys the best, man. It was fucking a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. If I could just say thank you for having us out and hosting us and bringing us into your house, and more importantly than the podcast, like just bringing us into your heart, you know, as a friend, and getting to spend quality time together and working out and just shooting the shit, man. It's been awesome.
10-minute walks and steak.
Yeah, 10-minute walks and steak.
How romantic.
It's so romantic. It's for real.
Where are we going to go from here? I don't know.
It's just a big hug session.
Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. See you later. Thanks, bud.
Thank you.